again. We won't come home. Radio on, rose-colored light, pretending I'm famous. I keep driving to clear my head. I keep driving to find a getaway. I keep chasing a love just ahead and close enough now. Be there in 5. We could let go tonight. Wings on our side. Come on, let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's Veronica. And in today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to start your very own bullet journal. So for those of you who don't know, a bullet journal is just a way of keeping your thoughts organized, setting goals for yourself, and kind of tracking your progress. It's basically a personalized planner. So I'm just going to be using this notebook that I found from Walmart. It has the dates on top of the paper, but I probably will not be using those, as well as lines across the page. Now, I know you can either get plain paper or dotted paper or graphed paper. It all just kind of depends on what you want for your journal. You can buy journals specifically for bullet journaling. I'm also going to be using washi tape to cover up any mistakes I might make, and also just to kind of personalize the journal. And then I'm also going to be using these gel pens from Papermate. And I really like these because they don't bleed through your page and they're very easy to write with. Another thing I recommend using is a ruler because it's super nice to have to measure out spaces and just to draw straight lines. So the first step to making your bulletin journal is starting an index. This is just going to be a place for you to keep track of your pages in your bulletin journal. And throughout this whole notebook, you can personalize it as much or as little as you like. The whole idea of a bulletin journal is just to have something that works for you. If you're ever looking for inspiration on doodles for your notebook, there are tons of ideas on Pinterest. So I'm going to write a spot for my pages and for my entries. And since I probably will not be able to fit them all on one page, I'm also going to put them on the back side of that page. So the next page you're going to want to work on is your journal keys. And journal keys are just little icons that you use to represent something. So for example, I'm going to use a square for tasks and a circle for goals. And then I'll half fill in the square when I've started a goal, then I'll completely fill it in when I'm finished. You can also make other little images to represent other things. And as far as journal keys go, you can use whatever method you like. You really just want to use icons that will help you to keep track of all your stuff. Like, for example, I want to keep track of my workout and my water intake. So I am going to make two little things for that. So once you finish with your key page, you're going to want to go on to writing your future log. And a future log is just basically a calendar for holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, just stuff like that. So I've seen so many ways you can set this up, but I'm going to set it up by doing 3 months on one page. And I'm also going to leave the bottom section of the page just for notes. So now I'm going to go in and write the months. And then I'm going to write the days of the week and the days in the month. And as you can see, it kind of can be a learning curve because, as you can see, the first one is way more squished together. So now I'm just going to continue on writing all of my months out. If you don't want to write all of these out, you can always just print them off the computer and paste them in. The whole idea of bullet journaling is just to make it personal. As far as the bottom section goes, you could either do notes, memories, or maybe goals you have for the year. And you can always add little designs or doodles to your notebook as well. Now I'm going to show you guys how to use the little calendars. So you take another color and maybe you circle or box the number, and then you can write that below the calendar. And I left a little space above, seeing as it was the 16th of the month, and there were probably more things going on in that month. So now we're going to jump into the month of January. So for the month of January, I think I'm going to put January down the side, and I'm going to put a big calendar in the center of the 2 pages. So I like to use my ruler to kind of measure out where I'm going to put everything, just to get an idea. So now I'm just going to take my ruler and mark out 7 little spots for the days of the week. So now that you have a calendar, you're going to want to write the days of the week on the top of it. Then I'm going to number the days of the month. Once I was finished, I wrote January on the side of the calendar, and as you can see, it kind of got messed up. So that's okay. The cool thing about bulletin journal is you can always just make a mistake look, I don't know, intentional. So I took some washi tape, covered it up, and then wrote on the month onto the washi tape. And if you're using a gel pen, you definitely want to make sure it dries. Otherwise, I would use a Sharpie because that dries really good. So now next to my calendar, I'm going to put monthly goals, and this is just a spot where I like to put some things that I want to accomplish in the month. So I'm going to use my little goal icon, the little circle, and I'm going to put some goals that I want to try and achieve in the month of January. So the next thing that I'm going to put on my month page is a habit tracker. So what a habit tracker is it basically tracks your progress through habits you want to pick up. So I'm first going to start out by writing the days that there are in the month. Then I'm going to use my ruler to create rows of dots below the numbers. This is so that you have an imaginary square below each number. Some journals you can buy with dots in them instead of lines, and so I think this is mostly where this is used. But I wanted to do it anyway, so I just went ahead and filled out my whole page with dots. So once I was finished, I just wrote some habits that I wanted to start to pick up. And usually you can write your habits at the beginning of your chart, but since I did not have room, I just wrote them at the end, which is totally fine because it will get covered up later with your check marks. So then you'll just fill this out as the month goes through, and at the end of the month you'll be able to see your progress. So let's say, for example, I had no spending on the first day of January. I would fill it in with the color of my habit. So these are just some things that you can add to your monthly page. I'm just going to go back in really quick and give my calendar a little more color. And if you're totally a drawer, you can do way more things on your page too if you want. I decided to add a little quote in the corner on some washi tape just to even out the washi tape kind of look. And that's your monthly page. So now we're going to go on to the next page, which is going to be our weekly page. So to start out, I'm going to make 7 boxes for each day of the week. And like I said, it's really nice to have a ruler just to kind of measure out your boxes so that they are all the same size. There are so many different ways you can lay this out. This is just one of the ways that I liked the most, so I'm going to go with this. So once I finished my boxes, I went back to my monthly page and saw what the first day was. Then I filled in the boxes with the days of the week. Next, I also wanted to add a few other little things to keep track of on each day. So I added 2 sections to each day. And then in those sections I added the actual date and also 2 little boxes to keep track of my water intake and maybe the minutes that I worked out that day. And then just in the rest of the spot you can use that to put any goals or tasks you might have for that day. So now I'm just going to do this to all of the days, and then I'm going to add a little section to the bottom for next week. This is just a little spot where you can put any little notes or tasks that you might want to do the next week. Then I'm going to make 2 small graphs to keep track of my water intake and my sleeping. So I'm going to add the days of the week at the bottom, and then how many hours I might have slept, and how many ounces of water that I might have had. So now I can just keep track of this throughout the whole week. Next, I'm going to make 2 other sections on the next page for weekly goals and notes. After that, I'm going to just make a small calendar for the month of January. And this is just so that you can see kind of what week you're in the month to kind of visualize how much of the month you have left. Now I'm just going to section off a few other places to keep notes. And then I'm going to go back and number some of my pages I created. And you can just kind of number your pages as you go, or you could sit down and number your whole book at once. So you're going to want to keep a few pages blank for the next few weeks in January, and then after that you're just going to start all over with the month of February. And since I'm not sure how many days left I'm going to have in January, I'm just going to leave that blank. So that's about all there is to bullet journaling. You have your weekly planning, your monthly planning, your future log, your journal keys, and your index. And if you guys need any more inspiration, I always go on Pinterest just to see some other ideas. And lastly, you can always add collections to your bullet journal, which are pretty cool too. And I might get into those in a future video if you guys would like to see that. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!